अब यान अपनी अंतरिक्ष यात्रा पर निकल चुका है। तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन चालू है और उस
+4 minutes
की प्रतिक्रिया नियमित रूप से चल रही है।
And as you can see on your screens, we have near exact following of the intended trajectory. The two lines on your screen essentially indicate the current performance of the vehicle, and it closely matches with prediction. This is on your screen on board from stage 3. What you see is the rocket plume and the nozzle, and Earth, our home.
What a beautiful view. क्या सुंदर दृश्य है हमारी पृथ्वी का।
S3 performance normal.
और तृतीय चरण का परफॉर्मेंस अब नॉर्मल है, या कि सामान्य रूप से तृतीय चरण का संचालन प्रारंभ हो चुका है और चल रहा है।
That's right. We've had call out that the stage 3 performance is nominal.
+5 minutes.
So stage 3 has a propellant loading of 2.5 tons, and we've had burnout of the stage 3 motor as planned at
S3
+5 minutes. Yes, we've gotten confirmation.
All right, so we have these visuals coming in of the Vikram-1, which is now successfully launched, and we'll go back to our principal correspondent, Siddharth MP. Of course, these are visuals we just saw, Siddharth, and we know that it is now at stage 3. Explain to us all these stages, and of course, and what are we viewing? We can see the Earth clearly, which is very interesting to see at that point.
So think of it like a relay race to reach 450 kilometers altitude. So a rocket is essentially multiple small stages put together, just like how a train is multiple small wagons put together, right? So a rocket, what it does is every particular stage has a certain task, which is why I call it a relay race. So the first stage will take the rocket past the denser layers of the atmosphere, and after that stage is propellant or fuel is burnt out, the stage detaches itself from the rocket and it falls into the ocean, or it falls into the nearest uninhabited landmass. That is how typically rockets are engineered, because rockets don't need to carry dead weight, because when you are traveling against gravity, when you are going to space, every ounce that you carry matters. So the moment a particular stage or a particular portion of the rocket has exhausted its fuel, that stage detaches from the rocket and falls down. Then the next stage takes over. That's where the relay race comes in, right? One runner hands over to the next runner. So one stage hands over to the next stage, and then the next stage starts burning. So right now we're seeing the third stage perform. This rocket indeed has 4 stages. So the 3 stages, once they finish burning, then about 9 or 10 minutes into the flight, we can expect the 4th stage ignition. The 4th stage is the final one, and the 4th stage is expected to perform for a couple of minutes, and almost around 16 minutes we can expect the final outcome, whether all the satellites have been released into space. That's the final stage that we have to wait to understand. But now we are also hearing cheering from the team over here. It looks like there is another milestone that this mission has crossed. They've crossed 7.5 minutes into the flight. And now we can expect the next milestone, which would be the 4th stage ignition, perhaps around 9 or 10 minutes, which is 2 minutes more from now.
All right, absolutely. We can hear the cheers of course, everyone from there. Of course, this is the first ever private flight we're looking at, and this launch is how important this launch has now become. What we also know is that they're targeting 450 kilometer above Earth, and what we know, they've crossed already 7 minutes. It was supposed to be a 16-minute launch, wasn't it, Siddharth?
Yeah, absolutely. 16 minutes, and the vital parameters are as follows. So when a rocket is stationary on the launch pad, speed is 0 kilometers per hour. But in 16 minutes, it has to go from 0 to 28,000 kilometers per hour. So often when we compare vehicles, supercars or superbikes, we say it can go to can go from 0 to 100 in perhaps 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. That's how we compare high performance automobiles, right? But in rocketry, you don't compare things in seconds because seconds are too small a time, but we compare in minutes. And in this rocket's case, in 16 minutes, 0 to 28,000 kilometers per hour. So that's what is special about rocketry. That's why rocketry is so complicated. That's why rocketry is so fascinating. And that is why rocketry is so attractive. And this is a feat that shows the peak of engineering. This is the pinnacle of engineering, because this is how mankind has learned to defy gravity. One way of defying gravity is to fly in an airplane. Another way to defy gravity head on is to head out there on a rocket. and Skyroot is trying to do that today. And Skyroot so far is making good progress. Now we're just waiting to hear what is the final outcome on the fourth stage ignition. Any moment from now, we can hear some updates on the fourth stage ignition. That's the most crucial thing, because if that fourth stage ignites, it means the first three stages of the rocket have done well, and the final runner of the relay race is performing. That's what the fourth stage ignition means. So we can expect that any time from now. And so we just got the call out that the fourth stage also has ignited. So that is pretty much the final stage of the rocket that has ignited. Now, the only thing that remains is this stage will have to sustain, and it will have to take the satellites to their respective destinations and deploy them there or release them there. Basically, they are thrown out into space, and once that's done, the mission is completed. So just about 5 minutes from now, we'll know the exact outcome. So it will be a couple of minutes of suspense now as the fourth stage performs its job. This is one of the longest stages because the satellite is required to be injected in a very precise location. So the last 50 kilometers that it travels, it will have to do so in a very precise fashion. That's what we're waiting to understand now, how it performs, how it turns out.
Right, absolutely. Of course, the first ever private launch that we have seen, an orbital launch rather, from India. We've seen by Skyroot Aerospace. Of course, this means so much. Also, talk to us about how much this, it means to us as a private launch for us, a private company coming into space in India. ISRO has been launching rockets for some time now, and when it comes to a private company delving into the space sector, how much of a progress it means for India?
Private space companies per se were only permitted to undertake space activities in the year 2020. And now here we are in 2026 seeing a first rocket hurling towards space and just moments away from glory, right? So this is the kind of progress that these companies have made. It's not that they did not have what it takes to do this, but they needed government support, they needed government backing, and they needed, of course, policy backing as well, because it's not that these people did not have what it takes to do this. Both of them, the founders of this particular company, Bharat and Pawan, both of them were working with ISRO until 2018, or perhaps a little prior to that. And then they chose to build their own company, and they chose to make their own rocket. They were making rockets for ISRO, they were making rockets for the government of India. But they decided that why can't we turn entrepreneur and make our own rockets? So that's the decision that they've taken, and it's based on that now we are seeing so much progress. They started their company in 2018. 2022, they did their first test launch. It went almost to 80-90 kilometers edge of space, and that was the first flight. And now here we are for the second flight, which is the flight to space itself. So huge milestone right now unfolding in front of us. We are moments away from hearing the final outcome.
Hear the cheers, absolutely. We can hear the cheers coming in from, of course, the audience, just waiting for this to become successful so that we know the result of this very important launch for India when it comes to private sector entering space in India. Also talk to us about, of course, this mission. You talked about these scientists who were working for ISRO, and then they joined this private sector. How does it, what kind of collaboration would it take place between a private and a government space research center when it comes to such missions?
So if we had to talk about this mission that's unfolding right now, Skyroot, of course, is a standalone private company. It has nothing to do with the government or with ISRO. But what is ISRO doing in this mission? ISRO is providing all the support and the infrastructure required for this launch. Because does Skyroot have a launch pad of their own? No. Skyroot has a rocket of their own. Skyroot has software and technology of their own, and they have the human resources. But what Skyroot does not have is a larger infrastructure, which is the mission control, the computers that are required to monitor, the entire infrastructure required to monitor a launch, the radars, the tracking stations, and so many equipment required are not readily available to all these companies, or maybe it is available, but it takes a huge deal of investment to build all of that up. What ISRO is doing here is ISRO is playing the role of a facilitator. ISRO is the expert in this country as far as rocketry. There's no doubt that ISRO rules rocketry in India and anything space in India. So ISRO is providing their launch pad. So Vikram-1 did not lift off from Skyroot's launch pad. Vikram-1 lifted off from ISRO's launchpad, which is the government of India's launchpad and the people of India's launchpad. So it is from there that this rocket lifted off. That is the fundamental support that ISRO is providing. Then, of course, the mentorship, the support, the guidance, reviews, technical reviews, then mentorship for the team, then helping them along the way to get various clearances, because to launch a rocket, you need to first notify a large area. You need to ensure that no flights fly anywhere within the vicinity of that rocket launch. You need to ensure that the entire sea lanes in that vicinity are clear, because for hundreds of kilometers, there is a high possibility that a rocket stage could fall anywhere into the ocean after it is ditched mid-flight. So all of these possibilities are there. There are so many clearances that government agencies have to provide: airspace clearances, waterway clearances, and the oceans. All of these clearances are required. And of course, rocketry is a risky business. So, in case there's something that really goes wrong, there also has to be insurance that has to be taken to ensure that in any case of mishap, things are covered. So there are so many things that only ISRO knows and only ISRO can support. And that is where ISRO comes in this whole affair, where ISRO is more like the chief backer of this particular mission, be it the infrastructure, be it the guidance, and so on.
All right. Well, we've finally seen the successful launch of the orbital rocket as of now. What we're, of course, going to be looking for what happens next is, of course, the next stage. What will happen with this, and how will it affect India in terms of private sector entering space? Thank you so much, Siddharth, for joining us and giving us all the updates. And, of course, congratulations to you and India as well.